Jackson, and I'm so excited because we have another opportunity to live, learn, and grow together. And today is going to be an exciting episode as we build on the concept that we began last episode. And I've heard from you how these tools and how this strategy has been setting you up for greater levels of success and momentum, because that's the goal, is to create an opportunity for us to come in, to listen, to grow, to sharpen one another, to leave out better than we came. And if you haven't listened or watched the previous episode, stop what you're doing, go back, catch up, so that way we can be on the same page, because we built on a idea, a topic of what's keeping you stuck. What are the things that are keeping you or preventing you from experiencing momentum, from experiencing this unparalleled, unadulterated realm of success? What are the things that are keeping you in a space where you're not achieving your maximum capacity? And this is the topic that we're going to continue on as we talk about what's keeping you stuck. As a quick recap, we went over the things that are keeping you stuck, and we gave you practical tools on how to get unstuck so that you can live in a state of perpetual momentum. Isn't that the goal? To create a space where we can tap into this flow, where we can create opportunities for us to just ride the wave of success, ride the wave of momentum without having to stop and do spot maintenance every so often along the way. Now, there are going to be times where you have to do some maintenance on what you're building, where you got to work the kinks out, where you got to try to make sure that things are in alignment with where you are. If you're not doing a consistent audit where you're trying to discover where you are, how are you getting there? How are we aligning with the vision? You're setting yourself up for success. But there should come a time where you are not having to do extensive maintenance on certain aspects of your vision, of your family, of your goals, of your dreams, of your businesses. When you get to a space where you become intentional about your productivity, but also making sure that you're setting yourself up for success, things hit a different flow. So we're going to talk about part 2 of what's keeping you stuck. As a quick recap, when you're looking at STUCK as an acronym, y'all know I love my acronyms. The things that are keeping us stuck is S, your systems. Your system. Do you have a system for everything? And are you creating spaces where your system can be intentional? I gave you practical tools on how to strengthen your system. So go back and listen or watch the last episode so that you can get the tools that are necessary to build on this topic that we're discussing today. Then after S, we talked about our time management. Are we managing time? Or can we be honest and say that time is managing us, to where we look up and we say, where did the time go? What happened? How did I sit here for this amount of hours? How have I been stuck in the same space for these many weeks? How have I been in the same space for this many years? And if we're not becoming intentional about our time management, we will look up one day and then we'll look back on where we have been stuck in time. And then this is where this level of regret comes in, because I had the time available. I should have maximized it. There were things that I could have been doing if I just had become more intentional. So how are you with your time management? Are you managing your time, or is time managing you? We then talked about our understanding. Not just your personal understanding, but the people who are around you, who are supporting you, who are helping you build. What level of understanding do they have about the vision? What level of understanding do they have about where you are headed? What level of understanding have you communicated? Are you all on the same page, or are there multiple visions, multiple ideas functioning in the same space at the same time? Because if it's not clear, If we haven't created spaces where we are clear on what we're doing and how we are building, we will create this level of frustration that now starts to build and it starts to grow because now we have multiple people working multiple ideas. So what is the level of understanding? Do we have clarity? Are we on the same page? And we gave you tools on how to maximize and develop a strong system, how to really become intentional about your time management, and how to unlock a greater level of clarity. And this is where we're going to pick up on this episode as we're moving forward in our stuck acronym, moving on to the C, which I think is a pivotal one for anyone who desires to do anything of value. You have to assess your capacity. What is your capacity? What capacity do you have available to accomplish what you are desiring to accomplish? Because if we're being honest, a lot of us may have a dream, a lot of us may have a goal, but we don't have the proper capacity to not only accomplish the goal, but to even get started in pursuing the goal because we are so full with other things. We're so crowded within our mind, our heart, our soul, our spirit. We have filled every single moment of our lives with something. And we don't have the capacity to accomplish what we set out to accomplish. I want you to just stop and do a capacity inventory right now. What do you have the capacity for? Some of us are at the stage where you're saying, hey, Will, don't ask me to do anything else, because if you ask me to do something else, I probably will implode. If that is the place that you are in, it behooves you to take a moment of honest introspection so that you can take a look at where you are and what you have the capacity for. Because some of the frustration may be because we are hoping and believing and wanting and desiring more, and we don't see the fact that we have not created room for more. So now this idea and this desire for more eludes us, and it feels like that we're the horse chasing the carrot that we can never catch, when we haven't stopped and really taken inventory of what is the capacity that I have available. When we're talking on our teams, that's one of the things that we're doing when we're doing check-ins. Hey, what's your capacity for this week? Because if I know that you're already at 90% capacity, why would I frustrate myself of trying to give you something else when you're already at your max? And what if some of us have been experiencing frustrations because we haven't been able to identify what our capacity is, and then we haven't been able to communicate what our capacity is? Because some of us may know what our capacity is, but we don't have the wherewithal or the knowledge or the know-how to communicate it effectively. When you don't know what your capacity is and you hit a space now where you are frustrated, and when you are in a space where you can't comprehend the idea of doing something else, when you don't know how to communicate it, it comes out in your actions. When you don't know how to communicate that you've reached your capacity level, you start doing things like lashing out. When you don't know how to communicate it, you start taking things personal. When you don't know how to communicate it or identify it, you create these constant frustration loops where you are trying to figure out, why do you keep asking me to do more? Clearly, you can see that I've reached my limit. Well, that might not be the case, because some of us may not have been in a space where we're able to identify and to be able to communicate our capacity level. So what is your capacity level right now? Because some of us are stuck because we have hit a space where we have limited bandwidth, where somebody could be talking to you and you miss the entire conversation. You are at your limit. And when you are overextended, we start making decisions that can compromise the integrity of everything that we're building, because we haven't been able to identify that we've reached our capacity. Where are you in your level of identifying your capacity level? Because if you can't see it and it is starting to erode underneath the surface. Eventually, you're going to hit that breaking point. And when you hit that breaking point, everything that you are building will come crumbling down. It only takes one moment to cause everything that you've been building to be placed at risk. And I can tell you without a shadow of a doubt and certainty, even from my own personal experience, is that when I have not been able to identify that I have reached my capacity and I keep pushing and I keep prioritizing my productivity and I keep prioritizing other people and I keep prioritizing other things and I keep going and I keep going and I keep going, I hit that wall, and then I start lashing out or reacting from a space where have you ever felt like your back is against the wall? When you feel like your back is against the wall, there were telltale signs that were leading you to see and know that there were certain things that you could have addressed so you didn't hit that state where your capacity was so depleted that you could no longer function at a high level. So in order for you to be intentional about your capacity, one of the things that we have to be able to do is to cultivate people and resources. One of the greatest things that you can do to maintain momentum is to cultivate the people around you. As you are building and pouring into the people who are around you, you create spaces to allow them to develop so that they can take on some of the load, some of the weight, so you don't have to carry it all. Some of us just need to take a moment and just really identify ourselves and say, hi, my name is Will, and I like to carry everything. Can we be honest? Some of us just prefer, I got it, because why? I think that I'm going to do it the best way. And if you think you're going to do it the best way, there are some cues for you to be able to stop and see, if I'm the only one that can do this right, then something has gone wrong in my ability to cultivate the people around me. Because if I have a team of people, if I have people who are around me and no one has the capability to do the thing right that I need for them to do, then I have not cultivated them. I have not developed them. I have not poured into them to the degree to get them ready to accomplish what needs to be accomplished. How are you cultivating the people around you? Even when you look down from a relational capacity, how are you cultivating your spouse to help you effectively accomplish your dream, your goal, or to create a space, a marriage, a home of peace, of happiness, of joy? How are you cultivating it? Because if you have expectations without cultivation, you are creating spaces where there will be this unending cycle of frustration. If you have expectation where there is no cultivation, you are destined to enter into a consistent cycle of frustration, because I'm expecting you to do something that you are not capable to do. And that would then now show a reflection on where I am, how I see things, and if I'm doing my job as a leader. Because if I'm doing my job, then you should be getting better. If I'm doing my job, our home should be getting stronger. If I'm doing my job, my children should be getting stronger. That the environment in my home, the environment in my business, that everything around me should be flourishing if I'm doing my job. And if you're going to be intentional about cultivating people, you have to create spaces where you are building leadership bench strength, those who are on your roster, through coaching and mentorship. This is constant. I'm constantly engaged in where you are within the process, where I can see what you're doing. And this is not a dictatorship. This is mentorship. I don't just tell you what to do. I give you the instruction and I walk you through it. I'm here to help you so that you can be cultivated in everything that you're doing so that you can thrive. Because when you thrive, guess what? We thrive. So I got to be able to build my leadership bench so that they're strong enough to accomplish the role that I need them come into the game to do what's necessary. I don't know if you're an average sports fan, but I am, as I've said in times past. And one of the things that I'm always interested in is how people respond when they come off the bench. There are certain times where you can watch a whole game and there's a constant rotation of players, and you got to be ready when your name and your number is called. Now, if you haven't been in a game and you're not paying attention and the coach calls for you and you haven't developed the skill set, guess what you can do when you get into the game? You can risk the lead. You can get into the game and then blow the entire game. Why? Because you weren't ready. Now, the goal as the coach or the leader is to identify where the people on my team are operating and how can we get them to a greater level. Because momentum will come when everyone on my team is able to handle their level of responsibility. And one of the ways that we continue to cultivate people and resources is you got to get people and leaders and those who are on the team to operate at their highest contribution zone. What does this mean? If you have a contribution zone and you are great at what you do, if I can put you in a space where you can thrive at being you in this space, then I can extract the best out of you instead of you trying to come into this role to act like me or to do it my way. And what leaders will try to do is try to make everyone do it their way. And we don't become effective until I can figure out what's your way and how can I mold the desired result, the end result, the direction where we're headed. How can I mold your way so that way you can accomplish this task, but do it in a way that you are comfortable in? Because if I'm trying to make you do it my way and it's uncomfortable for you, I'm setting us both up for frustration. So where are we in cultivating people and cultivating resources? How are you in cultivating resources that are around you? Can you identify when something is a resource? When you can stop and say, okay, I need to figure out what can I do? What can I go? Who can I reach out to? Where are some areas I can partner with? Because everything that is built that has lasting effect is created within the confines of community. If I'm trying to create it for myself, within myself, and by myself, then the only thing that I'm going to create is something that I like, that I enjoy, but it does not serve the people that I'm creating it for. So I have to be able to cultivate resources. Where are spaces where I can be intentional about making sure that I'm collaborating, that I'm building, that I'm connecting? Because everything of value is handled within the confines of community. So where are you in cultivating your people and your resources? Because if I can cultivate you, then I can limit me from getting to a space where I've reached my capacity. If I've reached my capacity, that means I'm carrying too much. And if I am unwilling to give it to someone else, because I am hoarding the opportunity or hoarding the responsibility for one reason or another. Some of us hoard responsibility because we think that if we give it to someone else and they don't do it right, it's going to cost us more. Their mistake is going to cost us more than me just taking it on and doing it right the first time. When in all actuality, that's you playing the short game. When I'm playing the long game, I see that if I can cultivate you now, and we can go through the stages of development to make sure that you are able to accomplish this task, then the time, the energy, the effort that it will save me in the long run will free me up so that I can be able to focus on the things that I need to focus on. But I can't focus on my role if I'm carrying everyone else's. So you got to identify where you are in terms of your capacity. And then once you reach a space where you've worked through your capacity, you have to address your knowledge level. K, knowledge. How much knowledge, know-how, wisdom, understanding have you gained in this area? Because if you want to do something and you have not learned it to where you have become an expert in the field, if you are not a consistent lifelong learner, then you wanting it is almost a disrespect to the thing that you desire. Because if I want it, but I don't invest in it, what I'm saying is I really don't want it. And that goes for everything. If I want this relationship, but I don't invest in it, guess what I'm saying to the other person? I don't want this relationship. If I want this job, but I don't invest in it, guess what I'm saying to the employer? I don't want this job. But if I want something, I have to be willing to create this intentional space where I can keep growing. You never arrive, we only improve. We never reach a space where I have hit the peak and there is nothing else to learn. When you have reached a space where you feel like that you have learned everything, you have limited your ability to identify that you don't have it right. Because if I'm not learning and I'm stagnant, I'm decreasing in my ability to accomplish what I desire to accomplish. I am either learning or I am creating spaces for me to slip back down into spaces of complacency, for me to lose or jeopardize or break or miss out on key cues, for me to really truly appreciate and to develop and to honor the opportunity. Here's my question. For whatever you desire, are you honoring the opportunity by investing in your knowledge? Do you really put forth the time, energy, and effort to invest in a space where you can grow, where you can be intentional about making sure that you are prepared? Because your level of preparation is directly tied to your level of knowledge in this area. You cannot tell me that you are prepared if you haven't invested in your ability to learn more about this specific thing. You could know all of the processes, but if you don't know how the process correlates to the bigger picture, or if you don't know how this specific role affects the whole, it doesn't matter. You have to be able to have the knowledge in this area of not just what you're doing, but what I'm doing and how is it going to affect everything else around me. Some of you may know that I'm an actor and I've done movies and plays, and I've always worked with some pretty amazing people. And the best people who were actors and actresses that I've worked with were those who not only knew their lines, but everyone else's lines in the scene. Why? Because if I know my lines and I only study my role, then if something happens, I don't know how to pivot in this scene. And some of us are creating these moments where we're super frustrated because we don't know how to pivot. Why? Because my knowledge level was limited to the only thing that mattered to me. If you're really truly going to honor an opportunity, I got to know more than just my role in this. I need to know what everyone is doing around me and how what they are doing will affect what I'm doing. It's like those people who are driving, right? And some of us are really great drivers and some of us not so much. And we're going to, pray that you get better. And we're going to just hope that, something comes along that motivates you to get your driving skills up. But the best drivers are those who are not just focused on what's happening in their lane, but I'm focusing on everything that's going on around me. I need to focus on every other driver because one turn from a driver who's not paying attention can put my entire drive at risk. One wrong turn can cause me to enter into a collision with something because I wasn't able to identify the signs of people around me who were not paying attention. What if some of the things that we're experiencing in terms of frustration in life is because we haven't taken the time to identify the spaces or to increase our knowledge of those who are around us? How can we get to a space now where we create moments where we're reducing the gaps in our know-how, and we start to refresh ourselves with the most updated information? Because sometimes we're expecting people to be something that they were some years ago, and we haven't updated our strategy or our information to identify that they don't have the capacity. Some of my greatest knowledge is going to come from identifying who's around me and what they are capable of. Because if I put the wrong people in the wrong position, then I am now creating spaces where we are now destroying and having this destructive energy filter throughout the cycles because we don't have the right people in the right places. So how are we going to get unstuck? When you're going to create spaces where you are continuously growing, where you've made the commitment that I'm going to keep growing to be a lifelong learner, you have to invest in continuous learning. There are aspects, so much that you can find on YouTube, online, on the internet. Invest in training and certifications. Find conferences to go to. There are spaces where you can pour back into yourself. And if you really want it, you want to be the best at it so that you don't get up into the space where now you have the opportunity, but you have mediocre skill because you didn't invest in your knowledge bank. So you have to be in a space now where you can identify not just where I am, but what is it going to take for me to get to where I want to go? You have to have this discovery, this curiosity of how can I improve? Because the science, data, and research shows us that your mind can't stay in a curious space and a critical space at the same time. And if I'm critical of where I am, then I limit my ability to be curious about where I can be. So I have to have a curiosity of how I can grow, of how I can get better, of how I can create spaces where I'm flowing, where we are now maintaining momentum. Our momentum will go as much as my knowledge will go. My momentum will increase as much as my knowledge increases. Because if I start something but don't have the knowledge of how to sustain it, then I keep hitting this space where there's this immediate halt, and I'm trying to figure out, why is this start and stop? Why is this I keep going, but then I have to pull over because I'm not increasing the level of knowledge that I need to sustain what I am building. So we have to create spaces where we're consistently growing, where we're investing. And how do we do that? We create spaces and atmospheres, creating cultures where questions and innovations are welcomed, not punished. When you are learning and growing, you need to create spaces where questions and innovation and trying new things. If you are going to grow, you got to come out of the box of this is just how I do it. Because I got to be willing to say, no, this may be how I've done it, but this is not getting me to the place where I want to be. And if I'm going to be intentional about where I want to be, I have to be intentional about investing in my knowledge where I am now so that I can accomplish what I desire to see in my life. Because if not, I'm setting myself up for frustration. So what's keeping you stuck? Are your systems strong? Are you intentional about your time management? Have you increased your level of understanding of where you are? Because see, knowledge and understanding are two different things. See, I can have the knowledge about what to do, but not understand that this is not the right time for it. So do you have the understanding of where you are, and does everyone around you have the same understanding? Is there clarity there? And then after you've worked on your understanding, where is your capacity? Do you have space for more? Because if you are going to accomplish more, you got to make room for more. And after your capacity, where is your knowledge on this specific topic? Because if you don't have the knowledge, the know-how, the intentionality invested in learning this thing, even if you get it, you won't be able to keep it. Even if you have the opportunity or receive an opportunity, you won't be able to sustain the opportunity because your opportunity is sustained on the same level as your knowledge is increasing. You got to be a lifelong learner so that you can be intentional about making sure that not just that you get unstuck, but that you never get stuck again. Listen, I hope you got something out of this episode. If by chance you leave from this episode and forget everything I said, I need you to know that you have everything inside of you already that you need to overcome and succeed when life happens.